welcome, welcome to the first episode of the dungeon. Oh wait, nope, you're muted. Let's do it one more time. Hello, hi.
Cursed.
No,
Cursed.
it's
First
not.
episode
It's not.
cursed.
It's not cursed. It's just me. It's just me. Yeah, first episode. Yeah, someone said it's tradition because I've done this
Yep.
every time.
Yeah.
Yeah, welcome to the first episode of the dungeon. This is a DM talk show a bit with me and Andrew. So,
Yeah. I'm Andrew Orvedahl.
and I'm
This is
Harlan Kelly.
I'm excited. That's pretty much all I do is talk about Dungeons and Dragons and other role-playing games, and now I can do it on a show. Perfect.
I know. I feel like when we were planning this, I was like, yeah, we were trying to strategize, but I'm like, well, both of us could just talk about D&D forever. So,
Yeah. But for these episodes, we're hoping to land it at 30 minutes, which is kind of insane. As anyone who's ever run a role-playing game knows, it's pretty hard to land something at the planned time. We're trying to do 30-minute episodes, just bite-size, just a quick chat
quick chat,
with the game masters. So
a little
yeah,
bit of D&D.
in some future episodes, we'll have special guests, but for these first two episodes, we just kind of wanted you to get to know each other. So
I'm the guest.
our first guest
today.
is Harlan. Yeah, Harlan, please welcome to the show, Harlan Kelly. Oh my God, I can't believe we got you. I can't believe we got you for the show. So right off the bat, how about what is your brief history with tabletop role playing games?
Yeah, I did not start playing until, and that's a player. I've never played any D&D, but I started playing in July of 2016, which is also the week I moved to Denver, Colorado. And I played for the first time on my birthday because my friend Ted Offner, who I hope to have on the show at some time because he's a very good DM, he asked me if I wanted to play. We played, and I immediately got so hooked. I was starting to schedule the next game. I took over immediately. It was like, we got to play again because it just hit all of those nerd spots in my brain. And I love it. I love it so much.
Cool. That's awesome. And by the way, if you want to ask questions, if you're watching this on the stream, you can go ahead and ask them now in the chat, and we will go back and we'll grab some questions at the end if we have time. So if a question pops in your head, you can ask it now, and we'll go back and try to find those at the end of the show for sure.
Yeah, hit us up.
Yeah, so relatively new to role-playing games, like myself as well. What are you currently running? What games are you running right now?
I'm running. That's a complicated question. Well, I'm running 3 weekly games. I'm running our game, Better Than Heroes, which is on this channel. I'd be surprised if anyone was here who didn't know it, but in case you don't, it's called Better Than Heroes. It's a Spelljammer influenced 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons game.
Dragons in space. That's all you need. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, it's true. Magic in space. And then also, I'm running 2 other weekly games. One is in my homebrew world, which because the person Ted Offner taught me, when he taught me to play D&D, he was running in his homebrew world. I was just like, this is how it's done. This is what I do. I have to create a world in order to play D&D. And so I made a homebrew world, and I've been running 2 campaigns in that. One is monthly and has been going for 2.5 years, almost 3, and the other one, it has been going for almost 1.5 years, and that one's been, it's weekly now, but it's been on and off, so both are around 35 sessions in. And then I'm running our other weekly game that we play in. That's just a home game where we've been running in the Forgotten Realms with 6 people, which is just the biggest mess, and I love it so much. It's so fun to run for a big group.
It's very fun, yeah, and that's a fun group too.
Yeah.
Sure. Is it tricky if you have a monthly game? Is it tricky to keep people hooked? Do you think?
It's a totally different approach, in my opinion. I used to treat it. It was the first game. My monthly game was the first game I ever ran, and I One of them is in the chat, I believe. I think Taylor is still here, but he just recently had a child, so the child will be joining the game soon, I imagine. But so that was the first game I started running. So when I was watching all of these tips to be a dungeon master and how to DM and things like, oh, we're back in it. I thought our stream froze for a second, but we're back in it. Sorry. So I thought that I was listening to all these tips, reading all these things about how to DM, and a lot of it just wasn't hitting as hard. I was just like kind of confused by it, but a lot of it's based around like more regular play. And I just had a piece click in my brain that was like, oh, I should run these. I should try and run these more like Acquisitions Incorporated games or something like that, where it's just like it's a single moment and the whole adventure is encapsulated in this moment, and then you kind of try and link them together. And since I've started doing that, it's hit a better flow that I really like, and is easier to DM than trying to like hook everyone and bring them in and make sure they remember everything. And now it's just like episodic, and it feels great.
Nice.
But it is a different approach.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I can imagine keeping people involved. I guess I'm used to kids, and if you wait a month to play with a kid, they're like, I've forgotten every single thing about this game.
Oh, I mean, everyone is also like that. To like, you can't do. I don't know. There's nothing you can't do. I feel like self conscious about it because I feel like I'm like making it lesser or something because there's every session feels way more epic. Like you have to really go for it every single time,
Yeah,
which is
you only
fun.
you have a month. You have a month to wait. Yeah.
Yeah, and we only
I
play for
feel like
3 hours.
a week is a
too.
long time to wait. I'm always like, I don't want to wait another week to play.
Yeah, we play for 3 hours too. So it is like we go in and we do it, and but if every time we do it, it just feels like there's a huge shift of like, okay, cool, this is a new game now. Like something big happens now, and it's really fun. It's just a whole different style, and I really like it.
Nice. Very cool. Do you have any sort of guiding philosophy to how you run games? Is there like any certain style that you have adopted? That's the question that sounds like I don't want to sound pretentious. It's more just like it's like if you have like rules that you kind of adhere to or anything.
Yeah, I think that it's hard for me to like. It's like It's like looking at the back of your head or something. Like it's a little hard for me to know what my style is because I haven't played a bunch. I played in a Dungeon of the Mad Mage campaign that lasted for a year. It was like Waterdeep Dragon Heist into Mad Mage, and I played a single character for a year in a weekly game that went from level 1 to 20. And then I played in the original game I played in, and that's really most of the playing I've done, besides a couple one shots with you. And but if sorry, that's a long way of saying it's hard for me to really know my style. But a lot of the things I've been told is that I run an emotional game, which I'm proud of, because I always want to put players in situations where they have to make difficult decisions. And that doesn't have to mean like grim or anything, but just like choose between one thing and the other. And I really like political games. I love my NPCs. If I over prep for anything, I will think about what an NPC's life is for way too long, and I love that about it. And that often causes me to be motivated to run games that are more political.
If I could toot, I will toot your horn for you, because I've played a good amount of games now with you. You have this like amazing abilities so that the world kind of feels like bottomless. Like you can encounter any NPC in your game, and they have their own voice. Don't even mean like the special effect of doing a voice, but like they have their own attitude. They have their own point of view. They have opinions about things that might be even unrelated. Like a lot of an issue I have with NPCs, I can like create an NPC on the fly for anybody, but and I get called out on this sometimes. Our mutual friend Aaron will be like, Skyrim NPC, Sky. It's like, how can I help you? It's just this sort of like, cardboard cutout that's like, oh yeah, I'm here, I exist. But with your NPCs, you never feel like you're activating them, quote unquote. You're just kind of like lucky to get this insight in their lives, and it doesn't matter. It's just crazy. Like, we'll like stop in a tavern for the obligatory long rest, and in 90% of D&D games I've had, you're just like, yeah, let's go to bed, let's magically heal and get all of our shit back and get back out on the road. But in your taverns, it's like there's a whole world here. You could spend your campaign in this tavern. You could go, you could chat with this bard. There's something going on with this woman who's, she's had too much to drink and she's involved in this card game where she's being cheated. And, there's just all these like crazy rich characters that you could chat with them forever, it feels like, which is like when I have an NPC in a game, it's like, oh yeah, they could chat for a little bit, but then there's kind of this point in my brain where I'm like, oh, I don't know how it gets to the bottom or the shallow end pretty quickly. And with yours, it feels just like you could sit here forever. You want to spend the whole session talking to this muffin vendor about berries? Like, you could do that, which is such a cool world, because when you get that feeling just from interactions, it makes the whole world feel like this is like an immense world that I feel like as a game master, I'm sure you feel the same way. You never want the world to feel small or artificial or anything. It's like you want the world to feel rich, and having those characters, there's other things you do too to make the world rich, but those characters alone, it's just like, it just gives it this like insane depth. So
wow, that was good. I'm like emotional. Thank you, Rich. That was so nice. My friends, there's a couple of my friends who I know in the chat who are absolutely know how uncomfortable I am listening to praise about myself, but that was very nice. I mean, it's truly just where my brain gets stuck. Like, I think if anything, I have more trouble prepping things like, like we played a game, we were playing session the other night where we did like a bunch of shopping, and it's like, it's so hard for me to pull, I give players so much money on accident and like sell them things for such a wrong price, because I can't do that in my brain without, like, that's when I love a chart and I love a table to have it to look at and reference. But I could just pull up NPCs for days because I love thinking about it. Like, that's when I'm like walking from one place to another place, I'll like think about it. Like, if we're going to turn this into an advice thing, I don't even know if that's what we're doing, but like, in the Better Than Heroes game, I'll do a little spoiler too. This is fun. In the Better Than Heroes game, you all met that ooze creature that turned into something, right? So, that's an Oblex, I think, is how you say it. For everyone except for the players, it's in Mordenkainen's Tome of Foes. It has a really cool story to how to make it. No, you're fine, Aaron. But I love shapeshifters too. I like in Star Trek and everything. Like, I love creatures that can change shape, but they're always bad. They always have this like untrustworthy feeling to them, and which is, I'm not saying, I don't want you to take this into any kind of insinuation on the character in the Better Than Heroes game, but I think the way I started thinking about it is just like, what does an Oblex that isn't just a monster look like, and what would it be like to ingest people and like get their memories, and then like have multiple people's memories in your head? And then I just like was doing that in the grocery store. I was just like, to not be stressed out, I was just like thinking about that. Nice. And so I guess my piece of advice is like,
I'll do a voice in a grocery store just to myself, like working on an orc voice, and I'm like, oh man, somebody's gonna be like, this guy's a fucking lunatic.
I know, I have startled a couple of strangers walking down the street because I'm like, hello, and then, like just not thinking about it, and then I just see them kind of like, and I'm like, oh shit, like I'm sorry.
I love that.
Yeah,
Yeah, even that shapeshifter, though, as creepy as that thing was, you did a very good job not just making it two dimensional, where there was kind of like it tears you both ways. Like, I don't want to give this thing a ride anywhere, but I also do feel sympathy for it, just
yeah.
as
I
an
mean,
audience member, like, because obviously I have to play my character as one way and how they would treat it, but as like I'm also an audience member who's like just listening to the game. But and it was like, man, I definitely have sympathy for this shipwrecked creature for sure.
yeah, and that goes back to like the the choice aspect. You know, like if I could boil down anything, like, excuse me, I hate to. It's a DMing is complicated and whatever, and I don't want to say like this is the one way to do it or anything like that. But if I could boil down what I go for in a session when I'm like trying to cultivate, is just the hard decision in many aspects, and it can be. And I want you to be unsure with the Oblex. It doesn't need to. None of the NPCs or anything need to be deep, or like, or have that huge backstory or whatever. I think they just need to make the player a little unsure, and just make you have to make a decision about what your character would do with him. Because when you signal, like sometimes sometimes it's not true. Sometimes you're like, okay, this bad guy in a bar kicks a dog, and like they're bad. Go kick their ass. But uh, sometimes it's really fun to be like, okay, what are you gonna do? Like, does your character think this is bad or not? And so it's twiddling with those little pieces of characters and like what it signals to the players is very fun for me.
Totally. And one cool thing with the show is that I think no two game masters I've ever played with are alike. And one cool feature I think as this show develops will be hearing everybody's unique sort of style and perspective on how they run games. Even if we were all running a game out of the exact same published campaign book, you could sit down 10 different game masters and the games would be different, the flavors would be different, the styles. And I think that's one really cool aspect of the game.
I couldn't agree more with you. Like I find myself, I'm kind of like the chronic DM, but which is not a thing I'm even would pretend to be sad about. I love DMing. I like DMing more than playing. But so I very often too I find myself teaching people how to play because I just am the person who knows how to DM. So I'll, people are hearing about it, and I'm like, I'll teach you how to do it. I love teaching people how to play D&D. And a thing I've experienced is people going like playing for the first time with me as a DM, and then going and playing at other tables and being like, whoa, okay, like this is different. And some people like it more, and some people come to me. The biggest compliment I've ever gotten is when people come back and they're like, they didn't do it like you do it. They did it like this, and I like this, and it's like the nicest thing in the world. But I mean, but I also run a very specific type of game most of the time. I
think people do get attached to their DM's style, even if to the outside observer they might be like, oh, I don't know about that person's skill set, but I think the people who have spent a lot of time there, they get particular. They're like, I don't know. It's just like
it's just what you know too.
Flavor for sure.
But I think every table is different. I think every time you're missing a player, or you add a guest, or anytime you change the dynamic at all, the game is going to be hugely different in a very satisfying way. So I love that aspect of the game. Yeah.
Cool. We have about 10 minutes left. So one feature that I wanted to do with the show, I have a table of questions. You love tables. I have a table for you. a loot table of questions. If you want to roll a d20,
Yes,
we can get some of these questions. Do we have any questions in chat?
we do.
Saved for the end?
I lost a couple of them, but I remember two of them because they were very fun. The first one was, is it? Wait, can I do it right now, or do you want me to roll first?
Let's roll first, and
Okay, cool.
we'll do the questions.
Okay, I'm gonna roll my bad guy dice. I don't have any special dice, but I do have a dice that I use for.
I've started
big
using my
bets.
bad guy dice for all of my games, both as a player and DM. It's the only dice I use, and it's the cheapest. It's a $3 set of bad guy dice.
Well, maybe if we had 20 more minutes, we could dig into the psychological nature behind it, but we
It's just
don't.
laziness.
Okay, I got a 6. So.
You got a 6. Okay. What is the most fiendish trap that you've ever pulled on a party of players?
Ooh,
And this could be a physical trap or a character trap. It could be.
Oh man, I tell this. It's a funny one for me to get because this is I have a tattoo for I got with one of my players when her character died, and I'll skip the beautiful, amazing story that I almost went into it with when we were talking about character choice because she made an amazing character choice that inspires me still to this day. But the trap was that a fellow druid, she was a druid. A fellow druid asked her to. He's like, I have a gift for you. Come meet me, and we can. I would like to.
This
give
was
you
an
this gift.
NPC druid that
Yeah,
you.
NPC druid,
Okay.
my druid, and this unprompted, the party was like, well, we'll split up like around the town. I'll go get my gift from this druid. Like you can go shopping, blah 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 blah. And I don't believe in. I think splitting the party is beautiful and good, but this time I was just like, and kind of tried to throw some warnings. It didn't really hit. And then she got there, and I threw out a couple signs, being like, all right, he's dangerous. And she was role playing it like a champ. Rolled for insight, didn't get it, and then the trap that I set up was that he wanted to give her a magical tattoo, and I knew, and I was totally baiting her a little bit because she is a person who also loves tattoos, and so I was like, oh cool, you will be excited and think this thing is cool about this character. And I just kind of like, it's just kind of a mean thing to do, but I also like, she's one of my best friends, and so I trusted that I could kind of mess with her a little bit here, and she knew it was coming the whole way as a person, but just couldn't get that role. That in her character, she was like, nope, my character would be so excited and think this is so cool, and she just like walked right into it, and only had two of her friends with her, and one of them tried to help, the other one ran away. It's beautiful. It was a beautiful thing that I
So
still.
what? There was
feel
the
guilt
magic
about.
tattoo. Did it harm her?
Yes, it was a curse that he needed to.
Oh.
It wasn't actually a tattoo. He needed to get this curse that was in the form of a tattoo onto her, and so he did it. And she died.
Nice.
In that
So
fight.
you used a player's real life interest to bait their character, a little meta trap,
Yeah.
knowing what they're into. Nice.
Yeah, just to which I would not recommend unless you're playing with your good friends. But if you're playing with your good friends, do it.
Trap them,
Yeah.
use their interests against them.
But I mean, this is a good. I think the big distinction was that I didn't trick her in real life. I just made a thing that I knew she would be enticed by, and I still, I still gave her the opportunity to know and to protect herself, and didn't trick her in real life.
And hats off to her for the solid role playing.
Yeah.
I love that. That's a tough. I mean, that's tough for anyone to make. It's like, all right, I'm walking in that door, even though player me knows that that's bad. Character me's going in.
Yeah.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. So what do you do when you're not running a role-playing game or playing in a role-playing game or doing voices to scare people walking by? What else do you do with your time? What other interests do you have?
I'm huge into music. I work for a record label. I do radio promotion for the Secretly group. And I used to go see a lot of live shows. so on pause right now, but I'm just a big music connoisseur. So send me your bands. It's the thing I'm excited about our show, Better Than Heroes, is that one of my good friends is making us custom music, and it feels good because I love
Very cool.
that. It gets me engrossed. So yeah.
Very cool. Very cool. Cool. All right. Let's do some of these chat questions. We got a little window of time.
Yeah. My favorite one I saw right out of the gates. And if you asked a question, feel free to hit it again. I lost some of them. So if you've been sitting on your question, thank you for being patient and drop in the chat again. Now's the time. But the first one I saw was hard to DM for comedians. And I know, because sometimes it is hard to wrangle you all because you're riffing and it's funny and I am laughing and I'm just distracted by actually just enjoying the things you all are saying.
I have noticed in the comedian game, we definitely we'll riff so long, you'll be like, remind me what you were rolling for. like there was a couple times when I was editing the podcast where you were like, what did you roll again? Like we definitely kind of went on too long, I think.
Yeah.
So that even you were like, I don't know what we're doing.
But I love that. Like, that's when I'm like, whatever. Let me mess it up. Let's do it again. I'll be distracted. It's fine.
Yeah, and that's I think
because
that's
the good stuff happens. But
it's helpful for the audience too to be like, oh yeah, I forgot to.
Yeah. But no, the less I can talk as a DM, the better job I'm doing. So you got to do it sometimes.
That's a great one sentence tip for anyone who's starting.
Yeah.
The less talking you're doing, the better the game is going for sure.
My buddy Alan, who was in the chat a second ago, he gave me. He's like my Zen master when it comes to DMing because I just get so nervous and in my head. But he gave me the best tip before Better Than Heroes started. He's like, man, just listen to the players. They're already giving you the story. And I was like, God, I love that so much. But yeah. And we have another question I want to get to.
Yeah, we could do that.
The question was, how do you pace combat? It usually takes a lot longer than I plan for. What do you do with that, Andrew?
Yeah, combat can be such a slog, and it is always longer. It'll be like, I'll sneak in this combat. It'll take like 30 minutes, and we'll do it. And it's like an hour and 10 minutes. It's like 90 minutes. There's so much. The number one tip I give players with combat, because there's only so much as a DM that you can do. Like, I try to plan out the encounter. Like, I know the stats for what I'm throwing at you. I know their abilities. I know what all that stuff does. I don't want to hold up my end of that encounter, like looking up stuff. So I try, obviously there's always things that you have to like check and whatnot, but I always try to really have that prepped. And then I just encourage the players. I'm like, the more you know your stuff and you're prepared, you'd be surprised at how much faster the combat can go, especially with magic. People don't know what their spells do. They have to look it up. They have to check. And then that dead time, and then other players get checked out. You see them kind of like, they're just thinking about stuff, and it's like this cumulative effect. And so they haven't really been paying attention. And then their turn comes up and they're like, okay, so what are we looking at here? I guess because they kind of checked out because you had to look up, what that spell did. So I just encourage everybody the better prepped you are just with that stuff, I think you'll find combat moves a little more briskly. But I mean, it's going to take a long time kind of no matter what.
And and I get that. I think if there's a million really great videos on like how to kind of like restructure combat or put things in there. There's like timer rules, or like as simple as like posting the initiative once the bad guys are announced or whatever. But I think my two simplest things are make it very clear to the player when they're up next. I will over announce that. Anyone who's been in a game with me kind of knows that. I'm like, okay, you're like, while they're thinking about that, you're up next. You're up next. You're up next. Like, make sure you know what so they can roll in having thought about it and not be surprised. And the second thing is, and maybe this is a bad thing that I do, is I often don't give players the option to do everything if they don't hit me with it. Like, I won't be like, well, you still got 30 feet of movement, or you still got your bonus action, or whatever. I'll just be like, what are you doing? Once they give me what they're doing, I'll be like, okay, anything else? Like,
Yeah,
if not, I'm going to keep going. Like, you got to manage that. I'm a big fan of players managing their own turn, and just, it's okay if it's
And
not
I think people
everything.
learn better when they're like, oh, when they're after the game, they're like, oh, I totally forgot I could have used that spell the whole time. It's like, you'll probably, learn better from it than being like training wheels through it. Training wheels? Is that the the verb? Yes. Um, the other thing I started doing, which is helpful for big battles, is I started using the mob rules that are in the Dungeon Master's Guide, and that's pretty handy too. And I just think of my mob enemies as like one entity, and I kind of break them up that way. So instead of having 12 orcs running through the woods, I'm just running like 3 or 4 enemies, and I use those mob rules in the Dungeon Master's Guide, and it speeds things up so fast.
It's so sick. And you get to, like,
For sure.
kind of make up your own little stat block, which is fun, too.
Great. I think that's about 30 minutes. Is there anything you want to plug, Harlan?
Better than Heroes.
Is there any other
It's-
question that you have to answer, first of all?
No,
Are we good? Okay.
I feel I'm excited about this. I feel like I could talk forever, and I feel good
Yeah,
about what we threw
30
forward.
minutes. Boy, it goes by
Yeah.
fast. But yeah, obviously you've got the Better Than Heroes game that you run. People can watch it right here on this Twitch channel every Monday night at 7 p.m. Pacific. Anything else you want to plug?
Check out the. I'll post a link in the chat, but check out the Bandcamp that is up with our music, with the music for the game. It's up that you can snag and use for your own game if you want to, because I'm just really excited about that.
Cool. Also, we're always looking for guest game masters to chat with. If you have a favorite game master that you want to nominate or you'd love us to chat with, hit us up on Twitter, or if you know right now in the chat. But let us know. We'll always be looking for guests, for sure, coast to coast. Yeah. Anything else you could think of, Harlem?
And just for the chat here right now, we're gonna do a double episode right out of the gates. So we're
Yeah,
gonna
so
we're
if
gonna
you
do
wanna
one more of
stick
these
around,
back to back. I'm gonna
be
interview
right
Andrew.
back.
So
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw up our little cinematic, and then we're gonna jump right back in, and I'm gonna interview Andrew. So stick around for a little bit.
All right. And last thing, this is just a cultural shift I'd like to see happen. Tip your DM. That's my.
Yeah, Andrew does that. Just you talk said so many nice things about me. Just to get this in here really quick. After every single game I run for Andrew, he Venmos me just like a couple bucks, and it warms my heart every flipping time.
It's
So
just
do
a
it.
thing it'd be cool to see, because as anyone who's ever run a game knows, it's like so much more work than getting to play. I love playing. I show up, I got my sheet, I'm like, let's do it. I'm ready to play. Didn't have to spend 1 second of my day prepping anything. But that DM who's running your game, they had to look at the maps, the stat blocks. They had to think of, the better the game, the more work they probably put into it. And so, yeah, kick them a few bucks. Just
And let me
something
tell you,
I
it
think
makes
would
him
be
feel
cool.
great. It just makes him feel great, even if it's just like a thanks.
Well, thanks for listening to this first episode, and this will be a podcast down the road. So yeah, maybe you're hearing this in that form. I
Yeah.
probably edited this out if I did. And we'll be right back with another episode.
Yeah, we'll be right back. All right, stick around. We'll be right back.